Hello, everybody. This is Ellie Miller, Bridges Program Manager. Thank you for joining the Bridges and Bridges RTC Rental Assistance Program Due Diligence Training. This is a training of Minnesota housing. Our mission, housing is the foundation for success, so we collaborate with individuals, communities, and partners to create, preserve, and finance affordable housing. This is the agenda for the day. I just first want to congratulate you on your award and thank you for joining this mandatory due diligence training. Again, my name is Ellie Miller. I'm the Bridges Program Manager, and I'm joined today by Kim Bailey, our Contracts Manager. And Meredith Mayrand is also a new employee with our organization. She may be joining us in a bit as well. Today, we're going to review the general and program-specific due diligence and the submission and deadline requirements. This training should not take the entire time. It will depend a bit on the questions that you have for Kim and the questions that you have specifically for the due diligence for Bridges. Kim is available at the end of the actual agenda. We're going to open up everybody's lines. I have you muted right now, but we're going to open up the lines at the end of the training. I really encourage you to ask questions while we have Kim in the room. But she will also be available after the training if you do have additional questions. Also, we are recording this training, so a copy of it will be saved on our website if for any reason you need additional review. So we're going to start with the general due diligence. In front of you is a list of the general due diligence requirements, and I'm going to go into the requirements in detail in each of the slides. So the first is the grant contract. The requirement is that you submit 2 signed original grant contracts. So unlike the remainder of the due diligence, this needs to be, we need you to review the entire grant contract and the exhibits to ensure that everything's accurate. We need them signed by the authorized staff listed and submitted in your board resolution. And they need to be mailed or hand-delivered to our office. At that point, we will countersign and make sure that you get a fully executed grant contract returned to you. The certificate of good standing is only required for non-governmental organizations. And you can either submit a certificate of good standing or a screenshot of current standing from the Minnesota Secretary of State website. And the link is listed there on the slide. Screenshot needs to show business record details and must include all information above the filing history. Renewal due date must be after the start of the grant term. The board resolution from your organization's board of directors must be signed in a dated original board resolution, should be specific to the grant and include the awarded amount, and must include the names of individuals who are authorized to sign the grant contract. Proof of insurance must be employee dishonesty crime coverage. The coverage must be at least 1/8 the amount of the total grant award, and employee theft coverage will not be accepted. It must be submitted as a certificate of liability and must list Minnesota Housing as certificate holder, and the policy must be current with expiration after the start of the grant term. The electronic funds transfer form. If the funds are to be deposited into an account other than what is currently on file, you'll need to submit a new EFT form, or if you're a new grantee, you must submit a new EFT form. These are the program-specific due diligence items for Bridges and Bridges RTC. The Cooperative Agreement, Bridges Waiting List Selection Plan, and that's only for Bridges, not Bridges RTC. And then with your selection letter in the email, you should have received a contact form that needs to be completed. The Cooperative Agreement, the drafts that were submitted with the application, is a good template that gives all of the responsibilities that we require that are covered in the cooperative agreement. There's a list of them on this slide, but everybody submitted the template and is very familiar with sort of the core elements that must be contained in that cooperative agreement. I'm going to be reviewing and currently reviewing the cooperative agreements, and my deadline for review of them is May 15th. If I find that there's some things about the cooperative agreement that I think need to be changed, I'll be contacting you before the May 15th deadline. The thing that I want to stress with the cooperative agreement is that it's meant to be a working document that reflects how the actual partnership works. And although there are some requirements, I really am looking in that document to learn how the partnership is actually working within the program. So if you haven't taken the time with your partner to really flesh out how that partnership is working and use it as a working draft, I encourage you to do so and then submit with the due diligence. The waiting list selection plan, again, is just for Bridges, not Bridges RTC. And the most important thing is that I understand how your waiting list process works and that you're giving priority to the populations that are listed on the screen. For the most part, I'm reviewing all the waitlist selection plans. I am seeing that the priority populations are listed, and some are actually giving me a little bit more detail on how the waitlist is managed. But the requirement is that you are giving the priority populations, they're listed in this order. Again, for both the waitlist selection plan and the cooperative agreement, I will finish my review by the May 15th deadline, and if changes are needed, I'll be contacting you directly. The contact form, we receive contacts through the application, but we're asking you to complete this form specifically. The two contacts to receive all grant-related communication. In the past, we've only asked for one primary contact. We're asking that you identify two contacts within the agency that would receive all communications related to the grant. Also, we're looking for a primary contact for your partner in the mental health initiative. And then a third contact for the information that you would like provided to households who are seeking rental assistance in your service area. We often get calls, as do other entities get calls, people looking to get information about the program or get an application. And this information, the contact information, is posted on our website. We want to be able to be really specific with people seeking housing on who the actual person is that would be contacted for this information. So please provide that third level of contact information for our website. And then for Bridges RTC only, we're looking for the partner mental health agency. So the submission, we've experienced some issues with grantees submitting the information to both the grant's email, which is listed on the slide, and a separate identical email to the program manager, or they copy everyone on the grant's email. This has created duplicate work and confusion around versioning and approval status. So please only submit to the grant's email listed on the slide, and no additional emails to the program manager or copying others. That way, as we're moving through that information and doing approval and working on versions, we've only got one person that's communicating with you directly about that. All other emails will not be addressed or answered unless it's a specific question that must go to the program manager. Just to reassure you, the grant's email will be monitored regularly throughout the day, and emails directed to the appropriate staff where needed. One other thing that would be really helpful is the naming convention. So when you are sending to this email address, name all documents by the grantee name and then the due diligence item name. And all general items can be submitted as a PDF. Program-specific items must be submitted in the original format, and contracts must be mailed or delivered in person, as mentioned before. The deadline is important. We have a June 10th deadline for the items to be submitted, and it's 4:30 on June 10th that we're shooting for. And there's a change. You may, in previous contract rounds, been able to execute the contract and make payments on the new contract without the due diligence completed. And that has been changed. We cannot, no contracts can be executed before the due diligence is submitted and approved. So any payments that go out in July without a contract and due diligence in place will not be able to be reimbursed. So I'm trying to stress this with all grantees, and we'll continue to stress it. We cannot do the contracts the way that we have been doing them in the past. So very important that we meet that June 10th deadline. We give plenty of time for the items to be approved, and there'll be a lot of communication to make sure that everybody gets a contract in place before the end of June. But again, stressing that we follow these deadlines and that you work closely with staff here to get these items approved and completed on time. I've included Kim's information on the bottom there if people do have questions going forward. But again, I'm going to unmute your line, and I'm encouraging anybody with a question to feel free to ask at this time.
Hi, Ellie. This is Dawn Bacon from Moorhead Public Housing. I just had a quick clarification. You mentioned a May 15th deadline. Was that just a timeline for you getting back to us on our draft cooperative agreements, but our finalized one is still due same day, June 10th, with all the other diligence items? Am I following that correctly?
Yep, thank you for clarifying. The May 15th deadline is a deadline for me to communicate with all grantees if there are any changes to the program specific, which is the cooperative agreement and the wait list for non-RTC programs. But if you do not hear from me by the May 15th deadline about those two items, then yes, you're going to submit your signed originals by the regular due diligence deadline, which is June 10th. Thank you for that question.
Thank you.
A couple of things that I'll point out while we're waiting for other questions is just Ellie mentioned really reviewing your contract. The contract does look different than in past bienniums. So we really are encouraging you to read through it, understand the new expectations. There's new elements in the contract so that everybody is aware of what they are signing and will be held accountable to and are responsible for making sure is being implemented during the grant term. The other thing that I'll just mention is the insurance. Ellie mentioned the 1/8 of the grant amount. If you are getting both bridges and bridges RTC, the 1/8 is the 1/8 of both awards. You need to be mindful that if you're getting more than one bridges funding source, that the insurance covers 1/8 of both amounts.
I wouldn't want to clean up that property over there.
If you don't have a question, if you could go ahead and mute your line independently. I'm going to keep the line open on our side, but if you don't have a specific question, if you wouldn't mind muting your line, that would be great.
Here's the question. Can a cooperative agreement be signed electronically? Dakota County uses DocuSign.
Yes, we will accept that for the cooperative agreement.
So why don't you go ahead and reframe the question for me?
Yeah, so the question was, can the cooperative agreement be signed electronically? The agency that's asking the question uses DocuSign. So for the cooperative agreement, you can have it electronically signed if that practice is acceptable by your organization. But we do not allow at this point electronic signatures for the contract.
Hi, this is Jennifer Keogh-Ellie from the Metropolitan Council.
Hi.
Hi. I tried talking earlier. I realized what I needed to do. Sorry. So I have a question for you. I sent the contract up to our general counsel. Just, I don't know if they'll have any issues with the fact that it's changed, but what's the format? If there's something that they bring to my attention that they said, you know, needed to be negotiated, what's the process that you'd like us to do that?
You'll reach out to me specifically to Kim, and we'll review the requested changes and determine whether it's something that we feel like we can negotiate or is an item that we're unable to make any changes to, but we can certainly have that discussion. I will say that much of what is in there are non-negotiables, but there are some places that we might be able to have some discussion around.
Okay, that sounds good. I don't expect anything, but you never know when general counsel gets involved. So thank you.
Yep, absolutely.
Hi, this is Dawn Bacon with Moorhead Public Housing again. Kind of a unique question, but are there any problems with me submitting a board resolution accepting the bridges amount with all of the requirements in it? It is dated 2 days prior to the MHFA board actually passing the bridges award amount. And the background for my question is, given, you know, the timeline we're under and that we can't execute a contract without meeting these timelines, I didn't want to take any chances with our May board meeting, and my April board meeting was 2 days prior to the MHFA board meeting, but you guys had your board packet out. So I went ahead and our board approved everything we needed to approve, and I'm hoping that you'll tell me that that's just fine to submit.
Yep, absolutely. As long as it has all of the required components in it, I'm less concerned about the fact that it was completed prior to our funding recommendations getting approved by our board.
Wonderful, thank you.
This is Gwen and Kim from Candy, Ohio.
Hi.
And Kim has the Bridges RTC agreement, and the housing agency isn't the grant holder, the mental health consortium is, and she's wondering what the difference between the mental health initiative contact person and the mental health agency contact person.
Well, it's going to vary a little bit from contract to contract. We have RTC grantees who are nonprofits, and they partner with a mental health agency. We have mental health initiatives that partner with a housing entity. So it really is meant to reflect who the partners are in your specific agreement for your contract. Does that help clarify?
I think so.
If you have any additional questions that are really specific to your agreement, you can also email me a specific question.
Okay, and you are Kim?
Ellie, this is Ellie.
Okay. Okay, thanks. I'll put you back on mute.
I have my email address and Kim's email address listed. Feel free to contact us with additional questions. And again, a recording of this particular training will be posted on our website in a few days. I appreciate that everybody attended today, and I hope you are clear on what due diligence is required. Kim, do you have anything additional that you need to add?
No, feel free to reach out if you have questions.
Thank you, everybody.